Okay, so if I write here the full form of this, please put yourself on mute. If you have any query, then you can ask. So this is the full form of this, whatever I have written here, the short form. It is nothing but object oriented programming, or S stands for system, or many people will say this S is a structure, right? So it's up to you whichever you want to use, right? So first of all, we have to understand that it is a programming methodology, or you can say it is just a style of doing the development, or I can say of doing the development or writing our code, right? So what I am saying, that object oriented programming, right? This object oriented programming is a methodology, or you can say the style of doing the development or writing our code. So many people think that it is a separate programming language, so this is not true, right? So first we have to understand this. So don't confuse that, right? It is not a separate programming language. You have to take care of this. So let us discuss this. First of all, let me just take one example, right? So let us discuss this, what are those classes and what are those objects in the object oriented programming. So if I come here, just we are, so if you want to understand any, you can say, if you want to just learn object oriented programming, so you can just relate everything with the real world, right? So here whatever we will discuss from this lecture till the end of this Java, right? So everything will be related to the real world. So if I talk about in real world, suppose there is one animal, right? So if I categorize this, so animal can be like cat is an animal, like cat is one of the animal, like you can say dog, or you can say elephant. So this is one of the, suppose this is the one category I am just defining here. So okay, so suppose you can say furniture, or let me take it as birds. So birds can be of many type, like sparrow, like there can be many birds like this. And if I talk about furniture, so suppose what are the types of furniture? There are many types of furniture, like stool, you can say chair, table, right? So here there can be many combinations, right? So if I say this is my class. So if I write, this is nothing but our class, and this is our object. You can say object, this is also an object, and this is also one object, right? So this is nothing but our class. And here if I talk about, so this is nothing but our class, and these are all but objects, right? So and this is also our object, right? So if we see, this is what are the objects. If I talk about the definition, objects, what is the definition of object you can give? Objects are real world, you can say entity, right? So this is the one common definition which you will find everywhere. So entity means existence, right? So which means if I talk about this object cat, right? So this is a real world thing, right? So cat is present, right, in the real world. Dog is also present in the real world, so it has some existence, right, in our real world. So this is the reason I'm saying this, that all these are our object, right? So this is an object, and this stool is also an object because it is a real world thing, right? And if I talk about this is also a real world, and this sparrow is a real world thing, right? So this is, you can see, you can give the definition of object, right? So if I talk about class, so this class, you can say that it is just a blueprint, it is just a you can say blueprint for or let me not write this as of now, just go with this one. What I mean to say that object is a real world thing. Just you can see dog, cat, chair, everything. But if I talk about this this right, this one, so this is a class, right? So you can see dog. If I talk about you can see dog, you can see elephant, but can you see animal? So you cannot see animal, right? You can see the categories of animal, right? You can see the cat, but if I talk about this furniture, so can you see this furniture? No, you can see the stool, right? Which are the categories of this? You can see the stool, you can see the chair, and you can see the table, right? So these are, so this class is not a real world thing, right? So it is just a blueprint, you can say. So it is just a blueprint, right? So let me come to definition first, then it will be clear. So as of now, we will discuss this in a coming while. So first, let us discuss what is this class. So it is nothing but a collection of object. So you can see uh, this is animal is our class, this animal is our class, and it is a collection of so many objects like cat, dog, elephant, right? So you can have one more animal like you can say snake, whatever you want to take, right? So you can take, this is, sorry, this is not an animal, you can say cow. Cow is one animal, right? So this class is nothing but collection of so many objects. You can see here the right. So this is what the first definition of the class is. And if I come to the second one, this is very important, that class doesn't occupy memory, as it is not a real world thing. As I've told you earlier, it is just a template, right? So just you can say here, animal is the class. You cannot see animal, you can see the objects of the class animal like dog, horse, cat, right? So suppose if you have dog inside your house, so will dog go in, suppose you have dog inside your house, so this dog will occupy the memory inside your house, right? So this animal will not going to occupy the memory, right? So you have to understand this, that when we are creating the class in Java, class will never going to occupy any memory. So it is the objects like dog, horse, and cat that will occupy the memory. So till now it is clear to everyone, you are getting some hint about classes and objects.
Yes.
Okay. So we will go little bit slow in this lecture, right? So that once basic will be clear, then we will come to the advanced topic. So here you can see the third definition. As I've already told you that a class is a user defined data type. So what is this data type? I am coming to this point, that why we need the class, right? Okay, let us first discuss this point only. So why there is the need of creating this class. So if I let me open paint again. So earlier what we used to do, if I write here that why we need the class. So in the definition I have written that it is a user defined data type. User defined data type. In the definition I have written this. Why I have written this? See, earlier suppose if you want to store the details of the student inside your project, right? So you define like this: integer age of student. I hope you remember this, we have done it so many times. And if the its name is, we can store in the one string variable like Sumit, right? Like this, there can be so many fields, there can be one address, and like this roll number will also be there, right? So there can be so many fields of a student. But here you can see, if I want to create the data of a student, right? So what that object oriented programming concept says, object oriented programming says, if you are creating, or if you are just it says that if you are declaring some, you can say here we are declaring some variables, right? For some real world thing, real world in the sense student is the real world thing, right? You can say, so there is some, there is one student Sumit. So if I am representing the, you can say, the details of the Sumit like this, you should, let me write here, real world student Sumit. you should form a group. But here if you can see, so this is what object oriented programming concept is, that if you are declaring the some details of the some person, or you can say anything in the world like this, but here you can see there is no grouping, right? So all these are separate, right? So here this is not a group, it is not a group. So what we can do, Java is introduced the concept of class. So what this is, instead of suppose this is, again let me take, suppose this is our student, right? So student is, right, so like you can say integer age, integer roll number, likewise, and you can say string name, right? So instead of defining these variables separately, what you can do, you can create one data type. So that class is nothing but our data type, right? So you can say class student, and inside that class, you can say, you can have age of the student, you can have name of the student, you can have so many fields, like this string name, and you can say integer type of roll number. Likewise there can be so many fields. So here you what you have done, you have done some grouping, right? So whatever the details of this particular person, you have formed one group, right? So this is what object oriented programming says. So this student is nothing but like our variable, right? So if I do like this, if I write like this, student data, so you can compare this just like we used to write integer value, right? This is our variable name, right? So here as well, this is our variable name, and this is the data type, right? But here the data type is student, right? So are you able to see that how we are, earlier we were declaring everything like this, but here if we use this class, I have created one variable, student, that will have all the data of that particular person. So this is the reason we need class in Java, right? So you can just group all the variables, different kinds of variables. So likewise float can also be there, right? So if you want to store salary, so 25,000 something like this, right? So suppose this is the salary, right? So this is the reason we need class in Java, so that we can form the group of that person detail, right? So because this is what the object oriented programming concept says. So this is clear to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let me open another point here as well. So if I talk about this animal class, right, again let me take animal. Animal is the class, right? So let me write it here, and you will have so many animals, like there is one animal dog, there is one animal cat, and elephant, right? Okay, so this dog has some functions, or you can say what is the task a dog can perform. So dog can eat, is one of the task dog performs, and run is one of the task dog performs, right? So I am talking about this one first, right? So there are so many tasks, right? So inside that class we will define the function. Here we will define the methods, or you can say the task as of now, task of object, because, right, so dog performs, dog also wag his tail, so wagging the tail is one of the tasks dog performs, right? So there can be many tasks, right? So why I am putting this, because it is a method, or you can say task as of now, right? So here we will define the methods, or you can say the task of the object inside the class, right? So if you want to access this eating function, or you can say the eating method of dog, so just tell me who will be able to access this. Will this animal will be able to access this, or dog? What I am saying, that this every dog will have some function, right? Suppose dog is eating, so if this is the task dog performs, this is the task dog performs, right? So I am saying that whatever the task this dog performs, or cat performs, we will write that task inside this class. So once we will write that task, suppose this I have written here, right? So this dog object will be able to access this task. See, animal will never be able to access this task, because animal is not a real world, right? it is not a real world thing, it is just a template. This object dog, this object dog will be able to access eat function, sorry, eat method, you can say, right? So let me first open this again, right? Here with the diagram it will be clear. Suppose if I have, so you can see this is the one quick example. So that there is a class human, right? So there can be many real world thing. Man is one of the object, woman. Likewise fruit is one of the class. There can be many real world fruit, apple, banana, mango, you all can see this, right? Likewise this for mobile phone and food, right? So this is the class and right one is the object. So what is the class? See here, you can, it will be clear. A class is just the blueprint from which the objects are created, right? So as you can see on the left hand side, there is one you can say blueprint, right? You can see on the paper. So from this blueprint you will be able to create so many cars, right? So if I talk about one example, so whenever your house is making, right, whenever suppose you want to make a house, so will you just like directly go to the place and start making the house? No, you will first create a blueprint on the paper, and with the help of that blueprint you will create one real world house, right? So this is what the same thing here, that left hand side is the class, it is just a blueprint, right? But by looking this, with the help of this blueprint, we will create so many cars, right? So you can see so many cars we have created, right? So this is one definition. And if I talk about, see what is an object, so it is a real world thing, right? So furniture, table, you can say cat, bicycle, cars, all these are real world things. So this is nothing but an object. So if I talk about object, so this dog is our object, right? Because it is a real world thing, so it will have, every object will have two characteristics. So if I talk about behavior, so these are nothing but our method, right? So we in programming language we call the behaviors as methods and function. So like barking is one of the behavior, like wagging the tail is one of the behavior, right? So these are nothing but our method, right, in the programming language. But in the real time you can think of this as that these are the two functions, right? Eating is one of the behavior, right, and sleeping is also one of the behavior, you can say. So this is what the behavior object will represent. And this is also one of the most important thing, state. So if I talk about a student only, right, if I talk about you can say, let me open paint again. Suppose if I am creating the class like this, again let me create class. So I will be taking I will be telling you that how to write the class, just focus this. Suppose class dog, right? So if I write class like this, so it will have some method. Again I have told you that eat will one of the method, right? You can say wag tail is one of the method, right? So these are nothing but the behavior, right? Right, so here in the diagram as well you can see that whatever the behavior I am defining them as method, right? So if you want to create any method, if you want to create any method, you have to place this bracket, right? So it will be called as method, right? So whenever you will see these braces after some name, just understand that this is a method, right? So this will actually perform some task, right? So this is the behavior. And if I talk about this dog, right, so it will have some fields as well, right? So it will have some name, suppose, sorry, not integer, string name, and string color, color of the dog as well, right? So all these variables what I'm defining here, or you can say string, you can say breed, right, which breed of the dog. So whatever these three variables I'm defining here, these three variables I'm defining here, these are nothing but it is the state. So what is this state? Name is one of the state, color, breed. So in the programming language we call them as fields or the variable, right? So we call them as variables, right? So this point is clear to everyone till now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let us, okay, so what is the definition I have written here? You can see object is nothing, but an instance of class. So what is this? You will find this word many places, right? In if you try to search what is the object, so it is saying object is nothing but an instance of a class, which means example. So if I talk about the animal class, dog is one of the example of that animal class. So this is what this mean, right? It means example. And object is also a real world entity, which means it exists in you can say reality, right? Like dog, table, chair, everything, right? So this I have already discussed that every object will have two characteristic, which is nothing but the state and behavior. So if I talk about, suppose this is my house, so house is also again a real world thing, right? So what is the state? Address, right? So address is one of the variable you can declare inside a class. Color of the house, right? So this is also a state. And what how much area your house is covering, right? So this is also one of the state. And if I talk about the behavior, or you can say methods, right? So you are using that behavior for only real world, but when we talk about programming, we will use this name methods. So whatever the behavior, you can open the door, you can close the door, right? Likewise there are so many behavior. So this is what this point says. And let me come again on the top. Okay, so this we have done that it is not a programming language. So this I have already told you that why we need class, so that we can form the grouping of the variables, or you can say grouping of the data of a particular real world thing, right? So this is class is nothing but a collection of object, right? So this point is also important, that it do not occupy the memory, as it is not a real world thing, right? Only object will occupy, objects like dog, horse and cat will occupy the memory in the real world. This animal will not occupy, right? And this we have already covered, that a class is a, okay, so this is I have already covered that it is just a user defined data type that will act as a blueprint for the creation of object, right? So this you can read, if you have dog in your house, dog will occupy the memory, not animal, which is nothing but our class, as it is, as class is not a real world thing, right? So this point is, you can already seen that creating the class is same as creating a data type. So I have explained you here. So I think you can see that, right? So here I have explained you. So whenever you will create a class like this, it is just nothing but creating a variable, right? So so you have created one variable which is of type this class, right? So it is this data type, you can say this is nothing but our data type, right? So this is what this point says. And after that, if I again come, yeah, so this we have discussed, and this I have also discussed. So you can say class is animal, right? So birds is one of the class, animal is a class, and dog, cat, horse are the real world object. So what is this method, or you can say behavior? So I will be using that methods in our programming. But as of now, what is the behavior? A task that animal perform, or that we want to perform, it is nothing but our you can say, right? So what is the advantage of creating the method? We will discuss this in a short while, right? So again I have written the same thing, I think. So animal is a class, what task or the methods animal can perform: eat, run, bark, right? So there can be so many methods, or you can say behavior, right? So this we have discussed. Okay, so till now it is clear to everyone. Then we will see some more thing.
Yes.
Okay, so what I will do, let me create one variable, sorry, class. So I can say, what is the class? I can say it as methods. First we have to understand some basic things about methods, or you can say the behavior in the real world. So if I want to calculate the factorial of a number, how we used to calculate, let us see. So if I want to calculate the factorial of 5, you can say 5. So how I can proceed? I can say one for loop. I will run it 5 times, and I will increment the value of I, and I will increment the value of I. Okay, after that I will say, So if I print it, it will return me 120. So let us see. So if I run it, it will say output is 120. So this is how you want to calculate the factorial, right? But suppose there is one, suppose I have created some big project, right? So at 1000 places, I am saying that at 1000 places I want to calculate this factorial at 1000 places. So will I going to write this code again and again at the 1000 places, right? So it is not a good way to do this, right? If you want to calculate the factorial of this factorial again and again 1000 times in one of the project, so you will not write this code again and again. What you will do, you will simply create one method of this, right? So you will create one method of this, and whenever you want to calculate the factorial of any number in between your program, you just call this method and it will do the work for you, right? So here, if I talk about the general syntax, this is how you have to write a method, right? So first of all, modifier. So there are four types of modifier in Java: public, private, protected, and default, right? So we will discuss those in a later point of time. Just understand that. So this is public modifier, right? And this is the return type. As of now, what is this return type? It will be clear in a short while. So if our method is returning the integer variable, so I will declare this as int, right? And this is the method name max. And here, if you want to pass any parameter, right, you can just define. And here, this is the body, right? So this is how you have to write. This is the general syntax of writing a method. So if I want to create the method of this, right? So inside the whatever the methods, so what are the methods? So let me write what are the methods you define inside the class, right? So you will, whatever the methods you will write, define inside the class, not methods, right? So this, you can see that this is also a method, right? If I talk about this main, why this is a method? Because after that you can see these two brackets, right, closing and opening, right? So it is saying that this is also a method, right? So from where our execution of program will start. So what I'm saying, this method is also present inside the class, and I've already told you here. If you see that if I come here, so I have told you that whatever the methods you will define, you have to define inside the class, right? So here, if I create this method, right? So let me create one method. How I can say, first of all, you have to write public. So as of now, let us go with public only. So what is this public, private, protected? We will see it later, right? So public, and then I will say return type should, sorry, my method name will be factorial, right? After that, here I will write the code. So what I will do, whatever the code I have written here, right, I will simply copy this and I will paste it here. And after that, what is the issue? Okay, so it is saying what is this void? If you can see on the screen, change the return type to words. Okay, so let us first go with I will say, if I say integer, so you will understand why I am writing this. And let me, it is throwing one error, so okay. Yeah, Vipin, I know. Actually, I was saying that here we will not see this because first we have to cover this basic, then we will see in somewhere else, right? Okay, so what I mean to say, if you have any query, please post, please mute yourself and then ask. Otherwise, I will not be able to see that screen again, right? Because as I'm teaching here, so I will not, that screen is not visible to me. Okay, so okay, so what I will do here from this, I want to, so here I have to pass my number, right? So int, whatever the number you will pass, it will come here, and once your number will come here, it will just going to calculate the factorial, right? And after that, what you have to do, I will return this. So I will not write this, remove this. Okay, so here if you want to call this method, right, suppose I am writing some thousand line of code. So somewhere suppose I've written thousand lines of code here. Just here it is not the thousand lines of code. Just assume that this till this point I have written thousand lines of code. If I want to call this method, how I can call? So how to create object, we will see that in a short while. Just but let us see. So if you want to call this method which is present inside this class, right, methods class, this method is present inside this class, so I have to create one object. So how to create object, we will see that in just a while, but let us first say, you can say input equals to new methods. Okay, so after this thousand line of code, I want to calculate the factorial of, you can say 10, or you can say let us go with 6 only. So if I want to calculate the factorial of 6, I can simply say input, I will call this method, right? So I will just call my method which I made, right? So here you can see I am not writing this code for this number, right? This is simply sitting here, this method, and every time I want to calculate the factorial of any number, I will simply call this method and provide my number here, right? So once I will provide, if I show you in debug mode again, int value, and after that I will simply print the factorial. So here let me put debugger here, and put debugger here as well, right? So let us try to debug this, how the flow of program will happen. So you can see, right? So as of now let us not see this line. So just assume that here I am calling this factorial function, right? So what is the, so this is the same name as this, if I, right? So these are same. Once you will execute this line, whatever the number 7 you are seeing here, it will fall here, right? So if I execute this, you will see that number 7 will come here, right? So again here this for loop will run 5 times, and it will just going to calculate the factorial of, sorry, it should have been 7 here, right? So let me run it again. So here I can also say number, right, because I have to run that for that much amount of time only, right? So if I want to, so let us go with 6, again debug this. So that 6 number will come here, right? Because I'm calling this method, I'm providing one value here, right? So this is nothing but parameter, right? We call them as parameter. So here there is only one parameter we are providing to our method. So once I will call this number 6, right? So this for loop will also run for 6 times, and when it will execute, right? So it has calculated the factorial as well. So factorial of 6 is 720, you can see. So why I am writing this return statement, right? And this is also important, right? So if you are returning any factorial value, so this fact variable is of type integer, right? So actually once I will execute this one, this line, I want the actual output, which is nothing but the factorial of 6. So this is the reason I am saying, once you will calculate the factorial of number 6, return me that number, right? So that number is present inside this variable, right? So I am just returning this number with the help of return statement, and when you will return this, you have to also say that what kind of value you are returning. So I am returning value of type integer, right? So this is our integer, right? So this is the reason I am providing the return type. So this is nothing but our return type, right? So once you will execute this, you will see that 720 will be returned after the execution of this. So that 720 will be, this will return 720, right? So 720 will come here, right? So once I execute this, 720 will come here, right? You can see, right? So this is how you have to define a method every time, right? So suppose I have written, again you can say 2000 lines of code. So what I can do, again I will simply call this method, right? Just like this we have code. Again I will simply call this method, right? Suppose I want to calculate the factorial of 7, right? So this is the same variable value, right? So this is how, if I print it, here you can see that code reusability, we are reusing our code, right? So this is the reason we are creating methods, right? So just reuse our code which we have written every time. So if you run this, it will going to calculate the factorial of 6 and 7. So are we getting this correct? I don't think so. If I write 5, you can see, right? So anyways, factorial of 6 is nothing but 720 and factorial of 5 is nothing but 120, right? So are you able to understand that why we are creating the methods, one method like this, and reusing it? Is it clear to everyone? Okay. So if I write void here, right, void, you have to also understand that in what case I have to return, right? Suppose I want to print my data here only. What I will say, I will not return anything. If you are not returning anything, just say void. Void means you are not returning anything. If I write it here, right? So if you are not returning anything from the method, you can simply say like this, right? So error will be on. So what you can do, but anyways I have to get the value, so I will print inside this value method only, right? So if I execute this, so change return type of save the program, I think error should not be here. Okay, why it is changing again? Okay, so here you will see, if I like this, here it is throwing the error. Why it is throwing the error? Because I am expecting some value, I am expecting some value on the left hand side when this will execute. But here you are already said that I will not return anything, right? I am not returning anything. Then why are you expecting some value at the left, right? So this time I will not provide like this. I will simply print this. I will simply call this, right? Save it. So this time I will not going to catch any value because this method will simply execute and it will not return me anything, right? So if I again execute this time, you can see, so again we are calling with the help of our, like, so here this is the number 6 and it will calculate the factorial and it will simply print here only, right? So this time I am not returning any value, so I will just say void, right? So this is why we will write void here. So these 2 points are clear to everyone. After that it will print, right? So after that our program also stops, right? Is it clear to everyone?
So, sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
So when we are using the void, then we are not. So is there anything we are putting in the main function?
Means did not get
I
your question.
mean, when we are using void type,
Yeah.
so we are printing the factorial value in that function only.
Yeah.
Okay. So then why we are writing input dot factorial 6 in the main function?
See, this is, I will be coming to that point. If you want to call any, so this function is present inside this class, right? This function is present inside this methods class. And if you
Okay.
want to access any function of this class, you have to first create the object of this, right? So here you can see this is nothing but our object. With the help of the object, we are creating this. We are, sorry, actually calling this function. So this is how it works in object-oriented programming. So I will be coming to that point, how to create class and object in a short while, right?
Okay. Okay.
Right. So this is a function inside methods class. So you have to create the object. This is our object, and with the help of object, you have to call this our method. Is it clear? Okay, so if I come here again, here, okay, so let us see how we can make the object, right? So just here, let me again open. So let me close this all. Suppose there is one box, right? So here you can see the diagram. Just let us do some practical. I want to suppose this is our box, right? So this is again a real world thing, right? This box, right? So this box will have some length, this box will have some length, height and breadth, right? So if I want to represent this box, what I can do, so here if I say, let me open notepad, right? So if I want to represent this box, I can simply say, first I will create the blueprint of this box, how we can do. So I will say class, right? So this is our class box. Inside that class, this will have some variable. So integer length can be one of the variable of this data. You can say integer breadth, integer height, right? So here it can have some methods as well, right? So one of the method can be, so we have just discussed how to create the method. You can say set the dimensions. So what is this, we will understand in a short while, right? So it will have some this method. So why we are creating this method, so when you will create this box object, I will just set the length, breadth and height, right? So here this method will do that, and here you can also have one method which is nothing but public void, you can say set, sorry, show the box dimensions, right? Here this method, what this method will do, it will just, let me open it in, yeah, so these are nothing but our, you can say fields, we call them as variables as well, right? So in the diagram itself, every object will have two, you can say two behavior. So first it will have fields, or you can say the variables. So these are nothing but our variable, right? And these are nothing but the behaviors, right? So we have already discussed this behaviors, or you can say the task. But here in the programming language, I will be using this word as methods, right? So these are the two methods, method number one and method number two, right? So as of now, we have not created any box, right? So this is just a template. I hope you remember that I have told you that this is just a template. Still, it is not present in our real world, right? So what we can do, so if I just let me make some space, right? From here to here, this is your class, right? So inside this, what I can do, suppose this is my main method, public static void main, right? So this is your main method. Okay, so inside that, if you want to create the real world object, how you can do, you have to write like this. If you want to create any object, you will say box, this is your class name, right? So you have to write this class name first, and inside that I will say small box, right? So this is nothing but my, so here I will be, as of now, let me use this, suppose this is your object name, right? And after that you will, what you will say, new, and you can say again box. So this is your nothing but your object name. As of now, let us understand that this is our object name. So with the help of new keyword, right? So this is our keyword. Let me write it here only. New keyword is responsible for creating object, right? Because what this new keyword will do, this will simply allocate some memory to your object. So if I, as of now, let me do one thing, uh, let me take it here, right? So if I write it here, let me make here as well class box, right? So it will have some integer length, integer breadth, or you can say integer height. So it can have many parameters here, right? Sorry, fields, or you can say variable, right? And I have also created two more methods, which is set dimension. This is one of our method, and there is also the second one, which is nothing but show dimension, right? And after that, so sorry for the, actually I do not have much space, so I have to write it here, right? So suppose this is your class and this is your main method. This is your main method, right? So once you will say I want to create a real world object, which means you have to create the object of the box. So I will simply say box, this is our class, right? So you have to write a small box equals to new, with the help of new keyword. Remember this is responsible for creating object, right? So once I will execute this line, what I'm saying, once I will execute this line, this one, you will see some memory layout as if I show you here, right? So just consider this first one. Once I will say, once I will simply say box b equals to new box, box, small box, new box, right? So once you will execute this line, you will see these variables, right? So this is your object, right? This time it got the memory, right? So if I again come here, so here I have added, I think, okay, so somehow my mouse is not working. Here I have written, let me take one more variable, which is called, so that box will have some color, so that color can be red, blue, anything, right? So once you are seeing this four variable here, right? 1 2 3 4. So once you will write this line here, right? Box, small box equals to new box. So one object will be created for you. This is your object, right? So it will have length, breadth, height and color, right? Because you have declared four field, I hope you remember, integer length you have declared inside the class, length, then you can say breadth, and then height you have declared inside the class. So this is the reason you will see this is our color, right? So this is also integer, but it is of string, right? So here as of now, by default it will have zero value, it will have zero value, it will have zero value, but as it is a string, last one, it will have null. So if you do not allocate any value, JVM will allocate some, you can say temporary, so some default value, right? So I will also show you in debug mode, don't worry. So you will see the exact representation there as well. So this object is created, right? So this is with the help of this keyword, this is the block you are seeing, right? Because of this new keyword. So suppose this is the address, suppose address is 10, right? So suppose this is your address, right? So what we are doing, this is our variable, this variable will simply contain this address, right? So many people say this is a you can say our object name. Many people say like this is our object name, right? But here you can see this is not our object name, right? So for our understanding purpose, we call this small box as a object name, but here this is your object, right? This object is just simply containing this address, so that we will be able to just refer to this. So like if I talk about real example, suppose you are saying to a friend that I want to go to your house, right? So if you want to go to a friend's house, then suppose this is the house of a friend, right? This is the house of a friend. So that house should have some address. Suppose this is the address of house, then only you can reach to this house, right? Otherwise, if that house do not have any address, right? So then how you will reach? So here I am doing the same thing. This is our object, right? And I am storing this object address inside this variable small box, so that whatever I want to perform any operation inside this object, I can simply use this variable, right? So this is the reason, right? So I will many times I also will say that this is a object name, but understand that this is nothing but our reference variable. You can see this is nothing but our reference variable. So I should have used this one as well. Actually I have created this, right? So this is nothing but our reference variable that will just hold the current object address. So object address is nothing but 100A2, let us assume. So it will simply refer to this one, right? So is it clear to everyone?
Sir, can you please repeat it?
Okay, so let me again repeat. So let me remove this all. So if I first come here, let me do one thing. I will use this second one. What I'm saying, once you will write like this, if I open notepad, so this is what I have defined in my class. So this class is a template. So inside that template box I have said that whatever the object you will create out of this class, it will have 4 variable, right? Or you can say 4 state. Length should have, that box should have length, breadth, color and height, right? So if you want to create the object, you have to write the class name first. This is our class name, you can see class name. After writing the class name, you have to write the, you can say, name of our object. So this is our name. You can give any name, it's up to you, right? And after that, with the help of new keyword, you have to write like this after that box. So this new keyword will be responsible, for allocating the memory to your object. So if I write like this here, you will see here only. So once I will write this line, this box, small box equals to new box. So this new keyword will allocate one block, right? Actually this new keyword will create your object. So this is the box, you can say box object, it has created, right? So this is our box object, and you will see 4 variable: length, breadth, color and height, because you have defined that inside the class, right? So this object will also going to have length, breadth, height and color, right? So till now it is clear to everyone?
Yes.
Okay, so as of now, by once you will once it will create the block, you can see I have written this small box at the left, so that once you will create this box here, once you will create this box here, I have on the left hand side I have written, let me write again, small box equals to new box. So suppose this is your object, that new keyword created our object, right? And it will have all the 4 fields: length, breadth, height and color. So as of now you do not have defined any value. So what JVM, Java Virtual Machine, will do, it will set the default value. So this is the default value, right? 0 for integer, 0 integer, and string is for null, right? So if you have a string, so by default JVM will set that says, hey, no color is defined for this box, no height and length, right? So this is how it will represent. So here I have created one, left this small box variable. So this is nothing but our reference variable, right? So suppose this is the address 2000. So this small box will store nothing but the address, right? So once it will create the object, so object will going to have some address like this, and this left variable will going to store this address, so that if I want to get this length, if I want to get its breadth of the object, right? So with the help of this reference variable, I will be calling all the operations, right? Just like if I want to call any method, right? So here methods will also be present, right? So if I show you, once this object will be created, so this is the method we have defined, show dimension, right? So here if I say here only, so let me write here only show dimension, right? So this is one of the method, right? if I want to access, if I want to call this method of object, this small box will going to help me. So how we can access, I will simply say small box dot, you have to use this dot operator and just say the method name, right? So show dimension is our method name. So if you want to access any method of the object, so this method is nothing but of the our object. So this is our object, you can say, right? So if you want to access, you can do with the help of this reference variable. So is it clear to everyone?
Yes.
Okay. So
Sir,
yeah,
sir, for example, for length, if height the default value it is setting like 0
yeah,
and
height.
function four dimension for this also any default value will be means default memory it will allocate.
Sorry.
Any function is there for that also any default value will be there.
No, no, I have told you that whatever the default values you are seeing here, there is one concept I have discussed in the very first class. This is Java virtual machine. So this is responsible for allocating these default value, right? So this is what that JVM will do, right?
Yes.
Okay. Is it clear?
Okay, sir.
Okay. So if I, so right, so suppose this is your box, right? So it will have some length, breadth, and height, right? So if I come here, as of now, it by default it will set length, breadth, height, and color, right? So but in the real world, can you imagine a box with the zero length, zero height, and zero breadth? It is not possible, right? So that box should have some length, breadth, and height. Otherwise you cannot just imagine simply a box. Are you getting my point? What I'm trying to say, that if this is the box, there can be no box can have zero length, zero height, and zero breadth, right? So I hope you are getting this. In the real world it is not possible, right? So what we can do, we will provide some value to this one, to length we can define. So with the help of this function, what I have written here, this is our function, set dimension, right? So what I will do, I will send some value to this one. If I say length, I will say, so I will going to use this variable only, so you can use it inside the method, as it is a defined outside the method, you can simply use this inside. So I will say length equals to length equals to 7 equals to 9, sorry 8, you can take any value. Likewise you can say height equals to, you can say 88, any value, right? Just random value. So once I will call this method, right, so automatically you will see these are the values it will come, right? So how to access any method, again I have already told you. If you want to access any method, this is the method, right, of this class. This is our class box. So you have to first create the object of this class. So here you have created the object with the help of new keyword, right? After creating the object, this reference variable will going to help you to call each and every method present inside the class. So if I say small box dot, so here you will not see any method after that because it is a notepad. So I have to call this method set dimension, right? So once I will call this method, what will happen, this method will be called that set dimension. So once this will be called, in these variable by default JVM will provide 0 0 null and 0, but once I will execute this, right, you will see instead of here if I say once I will execute that method, so here let me write it. Okay, so let me write it here only. So once I will execute that method, you will see the value of that will change. So length will become whatever the value I have defined. So length will become 7, 8, and 88, right? So color I have not defined as of now, right? So it will remain the null. So but now this time it will make some sense, right? Because you have some length of the real world box, breadth and height as well. But here again, if I want to set the color of this box, I can again create one more method. If I, where it is, yeah, here. So here I can also make one more method, which is nothing but our public, you can say public void set color. And here I will say I will make use of this variable color. So I will simply set color equals to red. So color, sorry, color equals to red, right? So once I will call this method, this color will also be set, right? So just assume that once I will call this method, so once I will call this method, suppose instead of null, this time value you will see as red, right? And just assume, right? So in the programming, our color is not going to change, but just suppose that once I will call this method, the color of the box will also change. So right, so suppose the color is also changed, right? So anyways, so what happened after that, this object will have some life, right? So this object, real world object, a box is created which will have length, breadth, height and color, right? So this is how you have to create the object. And if you want to access any method of the object, right, you can use this one, you can say, if you want to access any one, it will simply, yeah, you have to use this variable. This is nothing but our reference variable. Or if you want to say this object name from understanding point of view, you can say this, right? So this is our object, and with the help of object I will be calling each and every method. So this is one method, likewise this is also one of the method, right? So there can be so many methods. So this is clear to everyone. Otherwise we will see one practical example here as well, so it will be clear to everyone now, right?
Sir, sir, by using object, we are accessing the methods.
Yeah.
Sir, is it also possible to access the fields with the help of object?
Yeah, if you want to access any field, so this reference variable, if I come here, right, so this is your reference variable that will going to help you to access anything present inside the object. If you want to access this variable, you have to say a small box, this is nothing but our object name, so I will be just saying object name, so it is a reference variable, but let us call it as an object name, right?
Reference variable also or object also?
See what I have told you, that this is nothing but our reference variable, right, which will just hold the address of this object. This is nothing but 2000, right? So this is how the things are happened in actually, but many people will say this as our object name, right? So that from the understanding point of view, right? So in the real time, this is nothing but our reference variable. There is no such thing as a object name in Java, right? So this is nothing but our reference variable that will help us to communicate with our object, you can say, right? So if you want to access this field nothing but the variable, so you will simply say small box dot field, you can, sorry, height is nothing but our field name, right? So you can do like this. So we will be seeing that in our practical here. So if I just implement the same thing, right, so method we have done, so let me create one more class. So this time I will say class is box. So you can use this. Okay, so once if I want to represent a, here I have given one activity, I want to represent this box, right? So this is one, what you have to do. So you have to define a class box with the length, breadth, height as the member variable. Member variable in the sense you can say variable only, right, as of now. Okay, also create, or you have to define some function. These are nothing but the behavior. So set color is one function, set dimension is one function, and show the dimension is one of the functions. So if I want to implement this, what you can do, if you just create these three variable, right, so that box will have some length, it will have some breadth, and it will have some height, right? So So we will take this color after. Okay, let me take color as well. So string, because color will be of some integer type, red, blue, green, right? But these are nothing but the value, so I am taking that as integer. So inside the main method, okay, so let me create few functions. Public void set the dimensions. So inside that, let me create one more function, public void show, or you can say display dimensions. Right, so these are the two methods I have defined, and let me take one more method, public void set color. So color of the box we also have to define, set color of the box. So this is nothing but our method, right? So as of now I have not written any code, just I have created three methods. So if you want to create one object, so this is class, right? So this is not a real world thing, right? This class is not a real world thing, it is just a template, right? So this is one template, right? So I, in the template I want, right, suppose this is your house. So when you will create your house, you will design some blueprint, right? So this is nothing but our blueprint, and with the help of blueprint we will create our house. So here, this box, as of now box is not present. If I want to represent a box, or you can say if I want to give the life to the box, I will say I will create one object. So right, so here I will just call this object name, and I will simply say equals to new. So here, with the help of this one block, or you can say one real world object is created with the help of this. So how that real world object will look like, if I, let me remove this all. If I show you how that will, okay, so I need to remove this all. Okay, anyways, let me remove. So see here, once I will, again let me tell you again, that this is our class, this is just a template, as it do not have any memory, or you can say any representation in the real world. So this new keyword, when you will write like this new keyword is responsible for creating your object. So what is your object you want to create? You have to create one box, right? So as soon as you will execute this line, so let me also execute this, so I will show you in parallel. Hello, so I am writing this, so I can place on debugger here. Okay, so if I execute this line, right click debug, right, so this line executed, and you can see on the right hand side, if I open this, right, so this is a small box is just pointing to these four fields. So it will look like this. If I, once you have executed that line, it will create one object. So suppose this is your object block, right, and it will have some address 2000. So length, breadth, height, and there is one more field which is color. So default value is 0 0 by the Java virtual machine, right? So it will have null. For the string it is a null, which means it do not have any color name. So you can see here as well, right? So this is, suppose this is your object name, right, a small box. So it will have four field, breadth, color, height, and length, right? So this is how this part you have done, that you have created one variable and that small box variable, right? So you can say a small box on the left hand side. This small box variable will just going to actually hold this address of your object, right? So this is the address it will hold, right? So in future if you want to perform any operation in this, you can use this one, right? So here, this object, is not looking good, because in real time there will not be any box in the world which have zero length, zero breadth, zero height, right? So to also give some more information about our real world object box, I will just use this method, right? So what is the method here? Set dimension, right? Set dimension in the sense, so if I say length 99, length equals to 99, breadth equals to 33, and height equals to 88, right? So whatever these three variables you are seeing here, these are nothing but our these one, right? So I am able to write like this because this is representing this one, right, which is related to our box class. So this is also we are setting, right? So this time if I call this method after this, so after this I will simply call. So I've already told you that if you want to call any method of a inside the class, this is our method inside the class. So just create the object, you can say object, this is our object name, and with the help of object name I will simply put dot operator, and whatever the methods you have defined inside the class, that will come here. So this is one of the methods. So I want to set the dimension, so this is the one, right? Set the dimensions. So once you will set, you will call this method, this method will be called, right? And our object will have some representation in the real world, right? So in the real world it will have some length, breadth and height. So if I again run this, what will happen? If I again just place one debugger here as well, so let me place one debugger here, so you can see. Okay, so I think let me run it again. So put one debugger here, now I will run. So first line, this will execute again, right? So this will going to hold our object reference, or you can say object address, which is created by this new keyword, right? So once I will execute this, this will have some fields, or you can say variable. So these variables are coming because you have defined set for variable here, right? So it will going that our object will also going to have these for variable, right? So what I have said, that this representation of our object is not a real world, because no object in the world can have zero length, zero height and zero breadth. So I will use this method, right? So that I will be set some value, right? So you can see once I will call this, length will be set to 99, breadth will be 33 and height will be 88. So once I will execute this, this method is over, and we will, after execution of this method, we will again come here to this line. So this time if you see how your object will become, you can see new values are assigned to your object, right? So now this makes sense. So after execution of this method, what happened, if I come here, so this length will be set to some value, right? So I think 33, right, and 88, and I think this is 99, right? So whatever the numbers they have set, so now this representation is looking more clear. But here as of now this do not have any color, right? So let us also set color. If I want to set the color, what I can do, again I will use this method. So set color box. So what is the color I want to set? I want to set color. So this is our variable. So I will say simply color equals to, let me take red. So but if I want to call this method, again I want to take the help of this object. So I will simply say small box dot set the, you can say color. Yeah, this is the one, right? So save it. If I run it, you can say first this object will be created, this method will be called, so length, breadth and height will be set, right? So but after calling of this method, I want to set the color as well. So color is null as of now, but once this method will be called, you can see color is also set to red, right? So I think I do not have put any debugger here, so it has executed directly. But I hope you are able to see that after execution of this method, this our object will looks good, right? So it will have some color as, you can say red, right? So this I have set, but also I what at the end I want to display the detail. I want to display the details of this box. So what is the length, breadth and height of this box I want to display. So how we can display, I have just named one method, display the, you can say box, details. So this method can help you. So you have to write some code actually before. So just what you have to print this length, breadth and height, right? So just simply write length is, so this is, I want to print that in string, and after that I will print my variable. So I will say length, print the length. So with this we have printed, and I also want to print the color and the remaining fields. So I will just simply breadth. So here I will write breadth, height, and I will say color, right? So if you want to print the, here also you have to change. So what is the height? I will say HEIGST. I think here it should be color. So color variable I will write, or here I will write breadth, right? So if I want to display these values, the details of the box, I will simply use this method. So this method will going to help me. So after that I will write, let me write after that. So object name dot method name. So what is the method? I think display box details. So just call this method. So here actually I am making one method call. So let me put debugger here. So this time if I show you again, so again, so it has directly started from here. So because I have not put one debugger here, so these two lines are already called, right? So this method is already called. So you are seeing your debugger here, right? So it will set some value, length, breadth and height. It has set. So if I show you this time again, so color is missing, so I am using this method color set the color box. So color box is also set. So you can say red color is also set. So I want to display all these values of the object, right, to some other person. So I will simply use this method. So what this method will do, this method will simply going to print these variable, because I have set, if I show you, I have already set length equals to 99. So if I just print this variable, right, so length will be 99, 33, height 88 and color will be this. So here these variables are again I am using inside this block, right? Whatever these variables are coming, right, if I show you, so after the, right, so you can see whatever the values you have assigned from here, these values are stored here, and again I am using this method and I am just accessing these variable. So whatever the value you will have, breadth will be 33, right? So again I am using these variables here, so it will print 33 will be printed, height will be printed, and color will be printed, right? So this is how you can use these methods to set some values to our object, and later you want to print the value, so you can use like this regarding box, right? So if I come here again, so right, so this task we have done, right? So we have defined a class box, right? So it will have length, breadth, height. So color I have added, right? So it is not present here. So right, so after we have created set color, so that we can set the color of this box, and also we have set the dimension, which is nothing but the length, breadth and height, and this method I have called at the end, so that I will be able to show what are the details of our object. So this is clear to everyone till now?
Yes.
So let me do one thing, let me take one more example, because I think many people,
Sir, can we write small box dot set dimension, then
where,
dot set color box in the same line?
yeah, like after this, or you are
No,
asking this?
second line. Like we are doing dot of the method with the object in two separate lines. Can we write them in the same line?
No, this we have written in separate lines. So which line you want to execute this with? I am not getting your point.
I'm saying, sir, can we write small box dot set dimension method, then dot set color box dimension method?
I think here it is not possible, but many times, let us check. I think you can, no, you can see it is not providing any variable here, right? So you have to define it, call one by one, right?
Okay.
So there can be many cases you will find, right, where you can write like this as well. So here you cannot use like this new then some method name, right? After that you can call like this. So in the Selenium they have designed like this. Then after that if you place dot operator you can call method, but here this we have not created any chain of the method, so this is here it is not possible, right?
Okay.
Okay, so let us take one more example like this. Suppose I want to represent a student, right? So again let me create class student. Now again let me take one real world example so that it will be more clear. So if I want to represent a student in the real world, right? So college student suppose. So that student will have some name, sorry, roll number. That student will have some roll number. So that student will have some name. So let me take a string name and let me take as a, you can say, age, like age will also be there. Okay, so let me first I forgot to tell here. So suppose this is one object we have created, right? So if I want to create another box, how I can say? So this is a small box, number one, right? So let me write it here as well. So a small box number one, or let me take it as only box one, right? And let me say box one here, and I will say box, you can say one, right? So this, what we have done, I have created one real world object which is nothing but our box. So if I want to create one more box, I can simply say I can create hundreds of box, real world box like this. So that box one, sorry, this time again I have to write box, class name, object name is our box 2 equals to new box 2, right? Sorry, box only here, right? So what it will do, it will first create this box, it will have some variable, right? So again I will say the set dimension and display detail here. If I say, let me, okay, so box 2 will be here and display detail, right? So here if you see, again let me place debugger here. So place debugger here, yeah. So what I mean to say, you will see. So first we are creating one box like this. So earlier we created only one box like this, right? But what I want to do, I want to also create one real world box like this, right? So if I talk about this we have created, but I also want to create second box, right? So suppose this is our box one and this is our box two. So how we can do? Just you have to create the object again. So first again it will start from this. So box one will be created, this method will be called. So when this method will be called, it will have some dimension like this, right? After that this method will be called display details, right? So it will just display all the detail like this, right? Okay, after that I want to create one more box, right? So color, okay, so I should have set the color as well, I should have uncommented this anyways, right? So because I have commented this line, so its color is coming null because I am not set. So once you will create second box, again it will create one object, right? You can see box one is created, right? It will have some value. So I have commented the line, so you are seeing that null here, right? So this is our second box, right? So again it will have some default value by the JVM, right? Because we have not set, but again I will set this set dimension. So it will again set length, breadth, height, right? And after that I will display the detail, right? So again length, breadth, height, right? So if I see this, length, breadth and height, sorry, this is the one, right? So let me also execute color. So color is also, right? So this is our first box and this is our second box, right? So this is how you can create box 3, box 4, box 5, up to n number of box you want in the real world. But here you can see the data of the box is same, right? So what I can do, I will simply pass, I will simply define 3 parameter here. I don't want to hard code the data like this. I want every user should set the dimensions of the every box, right? So suppose if I write like this, int length, integer breadth, and I will say integer height. So let me say L for length, this is our breadth, and this is our height, right? So after this, just write L here. So once I will show you in debug mode, it will be clear. So let me first write length will come here, and breadth and height, right? And here as well, in this set color, I want these values should not come I will say color, C, string C, right, equals to color. So I will say C. So what will happen when I will make my object? I am making my object here, right? So what I can do here, I will pass what is the dimension, so length, breadth and height. So I will simply say uh, length 10, breadth is 20, height is 30, right? And for the second box, this is our second box, I will say 50, 80 and 90, right, is the dimension of this box. So if I talk about the color, so first box 1 will have the color as, box 1 will have color as, what is the color you want to define, you can write it here, red. And for the second box, I want the color to be blue. So it's up to you, set color, I will say blue. So how this will execute, see here, if I again debug this, let me debug it from here. So again one object is created. This time user is defining what are the dimensions for the box one should have. So whatever the numbers you will define here, once this set dimension method will call. So this is our set dimensions. So 10, 20, 30 will come here, right? So if I execute this, you can say 10, 20, 30, right? And this by default will have 0. I have already told you, right? So but what you are doing, you are providing value of this right hand variable to the left hand with the help of assignment operator. So the length will have 30, length like this, right? So once I execute this, you will see length 10, breadth 20 and height is 30, right? So this you have set. Again when I am running this second method, red color, so again, so I think I have not put the debugger, so it has executed directly. But if I show you how this will look, so this is our first box now, right? So this you have defined, and once after this I am displaying the detail. So length is 10, 20, 30 and color is red, right? So once this second box I am making this second box now. So here again created the object with the help of new keyword. So this object do not have any, so it will have just by default value because we have not set any value, right? So after that what I will do, I am just simply calling this method. Here I will provide my box dimension. So these will fall here, and for the second box they will call, right? And likewise for this, after execution, box2 dot color. So again I am setting the color, so color is blue. So here if you see, let me show you here. So box2, now the color is red, right? So actually, right, so this color is not due to that red color I have defined. I don't know why it is showing like this. So you anyways, right? So you can see breadth is set to 80, color is blue, we have set for the second box 2, right? So and after that we can also print the detail, right? So we are talking about box 2 as we are calling this method, with the help of this one, right? Not this one, right? So this method will going to give you the length, breadth and height of the second box 2, right? Because I am calling that with box 2, so it will just print all the required variable, right? So after that you can see you have created two box. So this is our first box and this is our second box, right? So this is also, you can create box 3 as well and you can set the value anyways, right? So actually I was taking that student example. So likewise there can be hundreds of students, right, in the real world, or if I talk about college, there can be thousands of students. So each student will have some name, will have some roll number, will have some name and will have some age, right? So these three fields I have defined, and inside that I will write some method public void set data, or you can say set data of students, right? So this method will going to set data for each and every student, if I create like this, set data of student, right? So this, and after that I will say public void display data of the particular student, right? So in the real world, again I am just focusing on this real world, right? So in the real world, this is just a template, this class is just a template, right? This class, as of now, no student is present inside real world. Just assume if you want to create a real world student, right, you have to first create the object, because object represents the real world thing. So if I want to create the object of this class, I will simply say is class student 1, right? Student number 1 equals to new student, and I will say like this, right? So what happened, we have created one student 1, but this student 1, if I try to show you in debug mode, if I try to show you in debug mode, I will say this is one object is created. Object is nothing but our real world. So this is one real world object, student 1. But if you see 0, null 0, because you have declared 3 variable. So do you think that in a college there can be some student like whose roll number is 0, name is null, so name cannot be null, right? So what we have to do, if we are talking about real world, we also have to set some value. So these are the two methods I have created. Set the data of the student, so that our real world object will have some data and it can represent in the real world. So I will simply say roll number, again roll number equals to roll, and I will say name equals to n, right? So okay, let me write capital name, right? So it will not create any mismatch. Age equals to age, right? So let me write roll number here. So here, if you are creating the variables here, then you also have to write it here, int roll number, and the second one is string, and the third one is age. So capital A, age, right? So these left hand side variable are nothing but our these variable, right? And the right hand side, the variables are coming from the method, right? So let me put semicolon after this.
Sir, the values, the roll number, name, and age in after class 2, they are the actual parameters. But we can call them as the actual parameters.
Yeah, I will be coming to that point in a short while, right? Yeah. So
We are storing age in string.
sorry. Yeah, I forgot. My bad. So int will become here, right? Int. Okay. So once we will create a method like this, so if I again run this program, so I want to set the data of student. So I will say student 1 dot. So what is the set data of the student? So data of the student I will pass here. So first student will have age is roll number 101, name can be anyone, and like age can be 40, right? Any age you want to say, right? So this is, sorry, it should be integer value because I am creating, if I write, right? So this is our first student data, right? So this is our first student. Likewise, I can create 10 student or 30, up to, it's up to me. So let me get second student as well. So this second student again have some data, right? So if that second student will have some data, I will simply say 102, and I will say Ankit, and I will say age is 22, right? So any age. Likewise, you can create a student 3, like here let us go with only 2. So once I will set the data of student, so let me write it first. So after that I want to display the data of first student, right? Display the data, simply call this method, and here you have to write, you have to actually just print these variable which is storing our data of student, right? So how we can say, I can simply say roll number, and you can say, you can give also message here. Here just I'm printing the required data. So you can say student roll number first, like this. So age, right? So if I run this program again in debug mode, so put debugger here, sorry, breakpoint here, right? So that our program execution will stop. Put here as well. So if I run this, so again from the main method our program execution will start. This is object is created, student1. So execute this, right? So one student one is created, so by default 0, and for the string null. So as student will have going to have some data in the real world, this method will going to pass that data, right? So that object will have some real world information, right? So roll number will come, name will come here Sumit, age will come here 40. So these values will be stored in this, which are nothing but these variable, right? So execute this one executed, this one executed, right? So what happened, that student1 object will have roll number as 101, name as Sumit, and the age is 40, right? So once I will come outside of this method again, we will, this line is completed, right? We came to this one, so you can see how this object will look like, 40, name, roll number. So it some makes sense in the real world because age, that object will have some age, name and roll number, right? So this method will do display the data. Okay, so I am calling this display data method with the help of this object, right? So when you will call this method, it is printing this variable roll number, name, age. So as I am calling this with student1 object, so it will actually print the student1 data, right, which is nothing but age, name and roll number, right? So if I again see call this, so you can see what that roll number will have, 101, name is Sumit, age is 40, right? So execute this, so it will print the data of first student in your output. Likewise, so this I have done so that you can just see the different data. So again we are just creating student2. So here I should have written student2 dot display data at the end, 2 dot, right? So let me run it again. So we have done with the student number 1. Okay, this time I came very fast. Let me again run. So again student1 is created, some data is set to the student object. Object is nothing but the real world thing, so we are setting some data. So displaying the details of our object student1, 101 Sumit 40. After that student2 will be created, right? So again this student2 will do not have any, you can say, have some default value, right? So in the real world it is not possible to have age, name and roll number like this, right? So to solve this issue, I will call this method set the data of our student. So this is the data. Second data is 102, Ankit, age is 22. So that age will come here like this, right? So all these variable will have now roll number, name, Ankit, age is 22, right? So you can see here again I am calling this method, but this time I am calling this display data method with the help of student number 2. So if I am calling this method with the help of a student2 object and I am printing these variable, so that variable belongs to object2 only. So this time these values will going to be print. So this is how it will work. So you can say we are calling student2, 102, Ankit, and then age, right? So this is how I have represented two students with the help of OOPS concept. So this point is clear to everyone. After this is you can ignore, right? Ignore this. So this you can ignore, right? So this is how you have to form the classes, right? So here let me write it one more time. These are nothing but the fields or the variable. So first of all let me tell me whether this object and classes is clear to everyone.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let me write here again. These are called fields. One more time let me write fields, variables, right? So these are nothing but our methods. So in the programming language I will call them as methods. So earlier we are calling them as behavior, right? So anyways, so let me call it methods. Method number 2, method 2, method 1. Okay, so right, and so let me come here first. So this we have done box 1. Likewise we have created two student, right? So let me come here only. So if I write here, these are nothing, we are calling these as variables only, but these are nothing but our, we call them as instance variable. So what is the definition here? We are, actually these are your variable only, but these are nothing but our instance variables. So if I write the definition here, they are defined, or you can say created, they are let me define, they are defined inside a class. So inside a class I have defined these three variable inside this class student, inside a class, but outside a method or any block, right? So let us go with the method only, right? So here you can see these are nothing but our instance variable. And let me write one more thing. Okay, let me write after that. Variable will be created every time for each and every object you define. So if I you create, so what I'm saying that these are nothing but our instance variable, right? So these three variables are nothing but our instance variable. So these variables are defined inside a class. So I am defining these variables inside a class, but outside any method. So this is our method. I am defining these variables outside, right? So I'm using these variables inside, but you have to define them outside, right? So instance variable will be created every time, or you can say they will occupy the memory every time for each and every object you create. So if I again run this program, you will see something here. These variables are created every time for every object. So if I run this program fast, so again it will run second student. So okay, I should have, I think I can show you. Yeah, so this is our object one. So these are nothing but our instance variable. I have already told, right? So age, roll number, name, because I'm defined them outside of this method, of these two method, right? So you can see this instance variables are created every time. First it will create for the student number one, so right, and this instance variable will again create for the second object, right? So here this is the line I have written here. So instance variable will be created every time for each and every object you create. So we have created two student object. If you create the student three object, then again these three variable will be created, right? So this is the reason these are nothing but our, you can say, object variable, or you can say if you want to say. But so this is clear to everyone, what are these instance variable? Okay, so if I suppose take one method here, just to explain, public void demo. So suppose this is our method, right? If I declare this int local variable, why I'm calling this as a local variable, equals to 88, right? So if I want to use this local variable here, can I use, if I try to say, I will simply say system.out.println, you can see one error is coming, because once this method, this is our again a method, you can see this, these two brackets, right? So whatever the, you can say, variable you will define inside a method like this. So here I am defining this with integer. These are nothing but our local variable, because once this method will execute, this variable will not be present inside the memory, right? So it will be destroyed, right? It will no more inside the memory, right? So this is the reason, if you want to use any variable inside a method, just define at the global level outside the method, so that even after this method will execute, even after uh, this method will execute, still you will be able to access this variable, right? So if you declare like this after this method execution, so if I say like this, system.out.println, and I will say it, I will say local, it will print it. If I call this method uh, from this object student1 dot demo, so it will simply print the data, but outside of this, but once this method will execute, this will be destroyed, right? So these are nothing but our local variable. So local variable are defined inside a method, right? So is it clear to everyone, this local variable?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let us see one more type of variable. If I say uh, if I talk about static variable, right? So we call let me not write it here. Suppose what I wanted to do. So these are my two students. So if I say student number one have some roll number, name, age, roll number, name, age, right? So suppose the college name is, I will say college name. I will say string. So let me remove this demo method. It is not required, right? So I will say college name should also be present. College name. So let me say college name. As of now, let me not say, right? So we will again send it from here. So again, yeah, from here we will send. So once this will execute, let me create one more variable here. I will say college name equals to. So here I will say at the end, I will say string college. So I will simply say equals to college. Okay, so here as well, and let me display the college name here as well. So this time that student, these two students are studying in the same college, right? So here I am assuming whatever the students I am creating, these two students are studying in the same college. So this we have changed, and here you have to provide the college name as well. So it is throwing the error because here you are just sending three data, right? When calling this method, you are sending three data, but here you are declaring one more, right? So you have to send four data here, right? So I will say what is the college name. So let me say IIT Delhi. So this is the student one in IIT Delhi, and this second student is also present inside IIT Delhi. Okay, so if I again try to run this in debug mode only, so how it will execute, let me show you one more time. So first this one execute. So this time roll number will be set, name, right? So roll number 101, name Sumit, age 24, sorry 40, whatever you have written, and IIT Delhi, right? So they will be set, and you can see college name is also IIT Delhi, right? So you can see. So if I show you again, right? So these are the data it has object one have, right? So this student one whose name is Sumit studies in IIT Delhi, and this is the age and roll number, right? So if I display the details, so it will just display again as I am calling this with the help of object student one. So this will have the student one data, right? So it will print college name. After that, student 2 again. If I execute this, right, so it has also executed fine. But here you can see, if I declare 100 student, right, so those 100 students are studying in the same IIT Delhi college, right? But I have already told you that when you will create these instance variable, this is also our instance variable as of now, right? This is also an instance variable. So if you create instance variable for the what I mean to say, this is these are the four instance variable, right, for the object. So but you can see if I declare 100 student, or you can say 1000 student here, student 2 and student 100 up to student 100 or student 1000, then every student will have uh, every student will have some different age. Just assume that here they have some different age, right? So their name will also be going to different, and roll number definitely will going to be different for all the 100 student. But here you can see, if all the students are studying in the same college, what is the same college I am saying? This college, all the students are studying in the same college, right? So every time this variable college name will also be created, right? So if I show you, let me also show you that how this variable will create, and it will occupy the memory as well, right? So where I have to write, let me write some more data here, student, and then after that I will write fourth student, and then fifth, and then sixth, right? So let me change student number 3. So I am not going to change the data, so anyways data will remain the same. So I want to explain one thing here. If you have thousands of students, okay, so it should be 1, 2, and then 3, and here you will have student number 4, 4 and 4, right? And then 5, 5, 5, and then here as well 5. Yeah, so okay, so 6 will be here, so 6, right? If I put one debugger here at the end, and if I debug this, so we came to student number 4. Okay, so we came at the end. So you can see student, all the objects of the students are created 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? And these are our instance variable. So age can be different for the every student, name can also be different, roll number will be different, but all the students are studying in the same college, which is nothing but IIT Delhi, right? So here you can see, right? So IIT Delhi will be present for every student. The college name is going to be same, age and name and roll number can be different. But if you have thousands of students, then you are creating this variable in the memory every time, right? So if you have 6 students, so this IIT Delhi, sorry, college name variable, which is holding our college name, will be created 6 times in the memory, and it will occupy the memory. Likewise, if you have thousands of students in the college, this college name will going to be created for 1000 times. So what we can do to save some memory, we will use we will not going to use instance variable. This instance variable we will not use, we will use some class variable, so which is nothing but our static variable. You can say I will declare this as static. So what will happen if I let me write static variables are nothing but class variable, they will not create every time when you create object, right? They the static variables are also called class variable. Okay, so I have already written this, right? So what will happen, I will not going to send the college name here from here, because all the students are already studying in the same college. Then why to send this college name every time, right? So what I can do, okay, so I have to change here. I have made one static variable which is holding the college name, and so from here you have to remove, so here as well. So this is our last student, so remove from here as well, right? So I will not provide college name here, I will simply say here equals to IIT Delhi. So let me provide some space, and instead of defining this college here, let me remove this, because we have defined inside the class only, because all our students are studying in the same college. So remove this from here, but at the end I will print this, right? Which is fine. So I want to print this. So if I again show you this time, if I run this again in debug mode, so first student one object will be created. So if I show you again, you can see this time this variable which I have declared static is not present inside this object, because here I am saying they will not create every time when you create the object, right? So but if I talk about the instance variable, they are related to the object, so they will create. But this string variable, static string, is nothing but our class variable, right? So it will not be created for our object. So what will happen, once I will create the student number 1, again this method will be called, it will set the data, and this method will be called, but here just I am calling this variable, right, that is already having IIT Delhi, right. So this variable is created only once, right, just here it will create one time. So this is how the static variable will work. They will only create one time once you will execute your program. And how many objects you will create, right. So for the first object IIT Delhi is printed, right. And if I talk about second student, so display the data as well. You can see again for the second student college name, right. So it is not creating over and over again, right. But if I talk about these three variable, that age, roll number, right. So you can see these are the data, right. These age, name and roll number are creating every time when you are creating the object, because these are nothing but our instance variable which are belonging to our object. But if I talk about this static variable, which is nothing but this one, right. So it will only take memory once, and all the objects, so these are nothing but our object, all the objects will going to use this static variable. And every time just calling this display method, this college will also be present, right. So this is how we are saving some amount of memory. If we are declaring that student, sorry, declare that college variable as static. So this is how, this is the reason you have to declare that as static. So if I display the date of third student, again this will be this object, student third object will going to share this variable, static variable, right. So again it will print IIT Delhi, right. So you can see this is the reason for creating static variable. So is it clear to everyone? So I think after that,
Yes, sir.
okay, so let me, if I talk about this, if we come here, so static in Java, right. So let me write it here. So this we have declared, right, static variables, also called as the class variable, because these, they will not create for every object, they will be created once in the memory. And after that how many objects you will create, you can use the variable there in the object, right. So static variables, and what are the instance variable, will not occupy the memory for each and every object you create, right. So I have showed you in the debug mode that how they are creating every time with the object. And this we also have discussed that these are nothing whatever local variable, right. So this we have done. So what are the static method? If I talk about the static methods, so if I so this we have covered, right, methods. Here I made one factorial one, right. So if I say, if I create this method as static, sorry, static, right. So earlier you can see I need to create this object. So this is nothing but our object name, right. With the help of new keyword I have created one object, and with the help of this object name I am accessing this method. I am accessing this method because this method is present inside this class. But if I declare the method as static, then I need not have to create the object. I can simply say class name. Let me remove this. Class name, what is the class name? Methods. So methods is our class name dot. Just simply you can use like this, right. So you can provide number here, right. So if I remove static, then you have to create the object. You can see error is coming because the method is not static, right. So you can, it is also saying that if you want to access this method with the help of class name directly, then change the method return type to static, sorry, change the factorial method to static. So it will automatically place a static keyword here, right. So you will going to get the same output, right. So if you want to, okay, it has printed the factorial of it, whatever be the factorial. So let us go with 6 720, right. So this is how you can place a static keyword before the method if you want to make your method directly be called.
So what is the advantage of
Sorry,
making what is the advantage of making a static method?
see, if you are creating the object,
Hmm.
if I am creating here only methods object equals to new method, I think this is our class name, yeah. So I have already told you that this new keyword will going to allocate one memory memory address, right, of the object. But here you can see that we are not going to occupy any memory, just directly calling this method, right? So this is the advantage you can get, that object will occupy some memory inside your, you can say, that memory area. But here I am not creating any object, so no, uh, you can say, just directly accessing that with the help of a static one, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
yeah, this is the advantage you can get, that if you declare a static, then otherwise you have to create the object, right?
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
And it will occupy the memory. So let me write here, if you create,
Hello, hello, sir.
yeah,
Sir, I'm not getting why there is need of having method. Why we
sorry,
are using static?
sorry.
Why we are using static method?
See, I am saying that if you want to, you can say, if you want to not call our, so this is my method, right? If I show you, I am using this static. If I do not use, what will happen? If you do not use that, you have to create the object of that class, right? So if I show you here, right? So it is saying that if your, you can say, if your method is not static, is not static, make it static. Otherwise, create the object and call it, right? So what will happen if I, suppose I want to call this method here, right? What I can do, let suppose I have written some thousands line of code, 1000 lines of code I have written, just assume, right? After that I want to calculate the factorial. So if I do like this, and after that I will suppose, I will call my object obj dot factorial, right? So I want to calculate the factorial of a number, right? If I do this for 1000 time object 1, right? So I will write object 1, and after that again I have written thousands line of code. Let me take 100 lines of code. Again I want to call this method. So what I can do, I can again create the object number 2. So this object will going to have some memory, because new keyword will create your object, and it will going to provide you some memory, right? And it will occupy some memory. So again, after that 100 lines of code, let me write 2 here. Suppose I want to do this for 1000 time, not 1000, let me take 50 or 100. If I do this for, if I want to call this method 100 time, then I have to create 100 objects. So object 2, object 3, up to object 100. So if you create so many objects in your project, then ultimately these objects will require some memory, right? If they require some memory, then what will happen, your program will become slow. So instead of that, if we want to use this method for several times, what I can do, I can create my method as static. If I create my method as static, what is the advantage I get? If I want to create this, call this method 100 times, I do not need to create the object, right? I can simply say this. So here I am not creating any object, so I am not occupying any new memory in my memory area, right? So you can do like this. But earlier you are creating this object, so it will have some memory, right? So I've already showed you in debug mode that how that will look like. So is it clear?
Yes. So basically, Sumit, can I say it's a good coding practice to making static method?
Yeah, you can say.
Okay.
But here sometimes, if you also want to, it's up to you, right? You can say that both will have their advantages as well, right? If you want to use with the help of object as well, then you can do.
Sir, this means we have lots of transaction, like we are doing same process for 100 times and 1000 times, like static variable.
Yeah.
We can use static method to overcome that, so that it will also avoid the memory space
Yeah.
for that will be used for every object.
Yeah.
If
So yeah,
it's
that will be used for every object. This is correct statement you are saying, right? So if I again call this method like this, I can simply say you can do that, but here it will not have any much effect on memory. But in big projects, right, that when people will companies have so many big projects, so their memory is the most important thing, right? Because if your project will become slow, then right, so you can assume that how many loss company can face if your project is so much slow, right? So client will say you that why our project is becoming is not running fast, right? So this is you have to take care when you will design large projects. So right, so here you can see these will occupy memory, this one, this one, this one, but here just with the help of class name I'm calling this method by creating it is static, right? So I thought that today we could have also done this topic, but time is over. So so right, so whatever the static variable, let me write it, a static variable will be shared by all the objects. Okay, so let me just give me 5 more minutes. I wanted to make one program, right, so that I can show you that whether this line is true or not.
So one question from my side actually.
Yeah.
Earlier you have just declare one static variable
Huh.
to memory. Instead of that, we can means writing static. We can make a global variable and we can use it in any method. Or
How how we are
specifying
saying?
using means instead of that means we are static variable. We can make it at the global variable means inside a class, not within a method, and we can use it in
So
any
this is
method.
created inside the class only, right?
No, that is created inside the class, but you use a static. No. So any specific reason to declare it as a static?
I have told you this one na, that if you want to call this method for 1000 times, you can do that by creating object every time, right? Suppose I required after 100 lines of code, again I want to calculate. But
I
what
thought I
happens?
thought I thought that I
So
thought that we don't have to call it means we don't have to declare it every time. But means instead of that we can means the one you have declared as static in the class only, you know, in the public area. So instead of that we can declare it a variable and we can size that variable over there.
here you want to declare
Yeah.
here
Within a
this
class.
method.
Within a class.
Yeah, within a class and inside the main method you saying that I will declare this method, right? Is it the one?
Inside. No, just show me that example, the way you have written the static one.
Let me write static first. Okay, then you tell what I should do, right? Static.
Not a static, not a static method. I've got it, that static method. No.
Yeah.
The one which you have said is static variable, I'm saying.
Okay,
Static
okay.
variable.
So where is the one? Okay, so I have to go to this class. Okay, so remove this, it is throwing error anyways. So let me go to this one, student one, right? So here I have used static variable. Yeah.
Yeah, here instead of writing static variable, I can only define string college name and then IIT Delhi.
Yeah.
And means I do not, can I use it in any method no, within a class?
So if you are saying that if I define like this, what will happen, right? This is the question.
Yes.
See, if I declare it like this variable will be created again and again. If I create 100 student object, then this variable will be created 100 times. If I show you,
Got it.
let me just do this.
When a statement will be created only one time.
Yeah, actually I was writing one program for that so that it will be more clear. Just give me 5 minutes, okay? So you can see again this variable will create and it will occupy the memory. So this is the reason if your field is not going to change.
Static keyword it will be created only once
Yeah.
in the system.
Okay, so one more thing, if you Okay, so let me take one example here only. Actually, I wanted to show you that whether all the variables are sharing the static, sorry, whether all the objects are sharing the static variable or not. So let me take one more class, right? So just give me 10 minutes, then we will wind up the session. So I will say static demo. So click this public static void main. So I will say I will create a, let me take it as static demo 1 equals to new, you can say mo 1, right? Sorry, it should be. So I will create two more objects, 2 and 3, right? So it should be like this, static demo, you can say obj1, right? So likewise two more, second, third, and object 1, object 2, and this is one object 3, right? So if I make one method here, public void count, or you can say counter, right? So what I can do, I will declare one variable. First I will declare instance variable int count. So this is nothing but our instance variable because it is declared inside a class but outside method, right? So after that I will say count, I am incrementing the value of count by 1, and I will simply say system.out.println, you will say count, right? So from here I will call this method. So I will say obj1 dot count, right? So this is the counter, sorry, counter, see, this is the method, right? So with the help of obj1 I have called this, and with the help of obj I will call this, and with the help of obj3 I will call this. So as it is a instance variable, when you will create first object it will be created, right? When you will call second object it will be created, when you call third object it will be also be created, right? So likewise if you create n number of object, that instance variable will going to be created each time, right? So if I run this program, so let me write 3 here, run this program, what is the output we should get? You can say output is 111. Why? Let me also show you that short in it quickly, that why you are getting 111 as of now, and we will see if I declare that variable is static and what is the output you will get, right? So it will run. So this is object created with only one variable, count equals to 0, right? So after that I am incrementing the value of count with the help of this second method, so it will increment the value and print in the output, right? So this object1 will also have the value because I have modified it here, right, with the help of this method. Again for the object 2, right, for the object 2 also, if you see, object 2 will also have the one value, and if I talk about object 3, again this will run. Object 3 is created with the default value as 0, so here also I have already set this default value to 0, but once I will run this method, 0 will be incremented by 1 and this count will change to 1, right? So in the output every time you will see 1, right? So you can see all the objects will have the count as 1, right? But if I declare that as static, so you can see each time when you are creating the object, that instance variable count is also going to be created inside your memory area, right? So here this is clear to us that this will be created every time if you declare instance variable, but if you do this static, so if I again run this, you can see output is something different, which is nothing but 1 to 1 to 3. So why this happened? Because when you will run this for the first time, so this variable static int count equals to 0 will be created only once inside your memory, right? So it will be created only once, you have to keep in mind. So suppose this is the variable is created with 0, right? So once this variable is created inside your memory area, I am calling this object again, and this time, as this is a static variable, right, you can see, right, so it will not be for the object, it is a class variable. So once you will execute this statement, this value will become 1, right, and it will print 1 in the output. So you can say count is 1, right? So when you will create second object, right, so this time, as this is a class variable, it is not created for each and every object, so it has already has the 1 value, right? So once you will call this method, count will become 2, right? So this way count value will become 2, right? So 2 will come here, and again when you run it for the last time, again static variable will not be created, it is already created one time. And if any object will make the change to that static variable, all the objects will going to be have the same value, right? So again if I call this, count will value become 3, so this time you will see the output as 3, right? So you can see all the objects which are created are sharing this value. So if I write here, the static variables are only created once inside the memory, and all the objects will share this, right? So you can see all the objects are sharing this. So if any object will make the change to this variable, so for the next object as well, it will reflect the same value, right? So this is the reason you are seeing. And if I expand this, if I am expanding this, you are seeing no variable is present here, right? Because that static variable is nothing but the class variable, it will not be available for the object. So you can see no variable is present here as well. So this is the reason I'm saying that static variable will create only once in the memory, right? So is it clear to everyone?
Yes.
Okay. So anyone have any doubt now?
No, as of now, but please share this on the YouTube.
Yeah, I will share that. I have to do as usual. So
Yes.
today I will not be able to discuss because I do not want to go very fast. So this we have covered, I think, right? So tomorrow we will see this, what is this constructor in Java, right? So till now you can just have a go through the lecture. I will share the recording. Okay. So
Yeah.
thank you everyone for attending today's session.
Thanks a lot.
Uh,
Thank you so much.
yeah, Ashutosh, thank you.